But this really was the birth of Diakonia. It was Christmas Eve. The kids in the community showed us what they thought of our locked up, afraid church. But here I had these kids in the pew. Asked them who they were. Turned out that they were nephews. They were from Central America. And they ran in the street, no one really watching after them. So I showed them the creation and everything, and I said, you know what this is? And they kind of did, but I told the story. Then we had these horrible windows. I wouldn't even call them stained glass. They were stained ceramic windows of pictures of Jesus' life. You know, it's like flannel graphs coming alive right on your window. And I started telling the stories, and at some point, it mattered to me that they understood.
Amen.
Do we just love the story, or do we love to tell the story? Do we love to tell the story, or do we just love the story? And it mattered to me like it matters to you that kids don't stick their fingers in the socket. In other words, this was, and I just realized we had to open up and we had to hunker down with this beautiful story again and make it come alive. And Diakonia really is about that. It's about this old story. And again, encountering that old story and the history of the people gathered by and for that story. And for, as David said, God's movement in the world, this sacrament of existence, and which is eternal. And so that really was a start. I went to, after we left the Missouri Synod, it was very disorienting for me. I went to New York Theological Seminary to try and find the rest of the body of Christ. Got to know the president very well, Bill Weber. He had started the East Harlem Protestant Parish. He was doing some things that I wanted to copy. And so Union Seminary had a year's study on theological education for parishes. Auburn Seminary was a former Presbyterian seminary at Union, and basically was Auburn's endowment. And they were trying to get Union off the hill and down into the parishes. And so they asked President Bill Weber, show us 3 congregations that'll spend a year with us on the needs of theological education. And they chose Central Methodist in Harlem, at that time the largest black church in Harlem. They chose Presbyterian Church in Stamford, Connecticut, called the Fish Church because of its architecture, a very well-to-do suburban church. And they chose our motley crew in Queens. On that year-long study was Jose Padilla from Ecuador, Candy Eng from Chinatown, Sung Chil Chang from Korea, and Archie Bunker times 3. And me. And basically what we wanted was a seminary of the streets. And at the end, they were going to fund the different projects. The other 2 never got off the ground, so they said, here's $10,000, go do it. And so Diakonia was initially funded by Auburn Seminary money from Union Theological Seminary. And we spent that year with people from Union like Christopher Morris and James Cohn and the president, Shriver, and so on. So we spent a year in it. So it came out of the academy. So I had a year. I went to Rudy Ressmeyer, my bishop at the time, in the East Coast Synod of the AELC. I said, what the hell do I do now? And he said, go build it. So we listened to the permanent diaconate of the Brooklyn Queens Diocese of the Catholic Church. We listened to the Episcopal Lay Training Institute. We listened to people all over. And Diakonia happened in a church basement in Trinity, Long Island City. which was a part of our Queens Lutheran School. And the first class had about 8 people, including 3 members of Atonement in Jackson Heights. We put together, and this is the DNA that we wanted in the beginning for Diakonia. First of all, we wanted lay training. We believe, many of us believe, that the church only grows when pastors are theological consultants and the lay people take over their church. We wanted theological education and spiritual formation that was accessible, sustainable, affordable, and excellent.